right, so in this video, I'm going to continue working on some modeling of how I would solve these problems. And so I'm going to take a look at my very first one. I'm going to start with number 8. So I have 35 times 2/5. And so I'm going to represent this times 2/5. So I'm not even necessarily going to look at the associative property for this problem. I'm going to go ahead and model this by rewriting this. So I'm going to rewrite it where I multiply 35 times 2. So I have 35 times 2, and I'm going to put that over 5. And so I'm going to come over here because it's clear space. So when I do 35 times 2, I need to find that. So if I need to multiply that off onto the side to find 35 times 2, I'm going to do that. So 2 times 5 is going to be 10. I regroup. 2 times 3 is going to be 6, plus 1 is going to be 7. So I end up with 70 over 5. And then I have to look at how many times 5 is going to go into 70. And 5 goes into 70 14 times. So my answer on that one is going to be 14. If I were to rewrite that using the associative property, so let me model that one using the associative property. So let me make some room down here. I would separate out the fraction from the numerator and make it a unit fraction. And so what I mean by that is I would take the 2, and the 2 I would write as 2 times 1/5. And then I'm going to take that, I'm going to multiply that by 35. And when I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change how I multiply. So I'm actually going to multiply the whole numbers together first. So I rewrite it to where it's 35 times 2 times 1/5. And then as I multiply that out, that becomes 70 times 1 over 5, which then becomes 70 over 5, or 70/5, which equals 14. So that's how I can use the associative property to model the math, and it's going to be something that you're probably going to want to be familiar with because you may be asked to use associative property to solve as you go through. So you want to at least be familiar with the process of it, but you can choose which method works for you. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at number 10. So I have 9 times 2/3. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do associative property first this time. So I have 9 times 2 times 1/3. So this right here represents my fraction. I'm then going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply 9 times 2. So 9 times 2 is going to be 18 times 1/3. And then I'm going to rewrite this to where I'm going to do 18 times 1 over 3. 18 times 1 over 3 becomes 18/3. 3 can go into 18 6 times. So if I model this without using the associative property, what I would do is I have 18 times 2. Sorry, I have 9 times 2/3. So 9 times 2/3. I would rewrite that as 9 times 2 over 3, which equals 18/3, which equals 6. So again, using the method that visually makes the most sense for you. If you like showing it this way, go ahead and use it this way. If you like this method, go ahead and use it this way. All right, number 12, I have 64 times 3/8. So I'm going to do 64 times 3 over 8. And so I don't know what 64 times 3 is, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this off to the side. So 64 times 3, 3 times 4 is going to be 12. I regroup the 1. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 19. So I end up with 192 eighths. Well, I don't know how many times 8 is going to go into 192, so I'm going to have to, again, off on the side, go ahead and do some division. And so I'm not going to look to see how many times 8 goes into 192. I'm going to see, can 8 go into 1? Nope, 8 can't go into 1. Can 8 go into 19? Yes, 8 can go into 19, and 8 can go into 19 2 times. So 8 times 2 is going to be 16. I'm going to subtract. I'm left with 3. I bring down my 2. 8 goes into 32 4 times. Finish out my problem. 0. So 192 eighths is going to be equal to 24. Okay. If we take a look at our last problem that we're going to do together, I have 84 times 1/4. And so this one is going to be the most simple one that we did in terms of setting it up, because it's going to simply be 84 fourths. And I know it's 84 fourths because I'm multiplying this by a unit fraction. And so I just have to look at how many times 4 is going to go into 84, which if I don't know that, I go ahead and I set up my division problem off on the side. So 4 goes into 8 2 times. That's 8. Subtract, bring down my 4. 4 goes into 4 1 time. Finish out my problem. So my answer here is going to be equal to 21. Okay, so now you have a few more examples to look at how you can use equations to help you solve. So either using the associative property or setting it up to where you're solving it by, let me go back to a page, to where you're setting up to where you're solving it to where it looks like this. Okay, so I put this over the 6 times 2 over the 3, and then I find my answer.